Hi, friends. It's Teresa Auten. Today, we're going to be addressing all the potential volunteers in youth or children's ministries, people who just want to know, how do I know that I'm doing it well? You want to do a good job when you're with the kids, and you don't want to just have it be just meh, whatever's happening. You really want to present the gospel well and have a high quality, high energy, enjoyable time together with the young people in order to help the gospel be spread with joy. So today I've really broken this down into four best practices that can be easily remembered and really easily leaned into. These aren't complicated things. These are things that we really just need to be paying attention to. We can do these things well, but it takes a little focus and a little reminder, takes being intentional and really leaning into this and understanding the value of being in ministry with youth and children. So we're going to begin by saying, let's make a pact. We're going to make a pact that we are going to partner together and remind each other and hold each other accountable for high quality ministry in order to further the gospel. We are to win souls, and every child, every youth is a soul that Jesus loves. And he expects us to lean in and share the gospel with these people. It is a very important aspect of of just being Christians, being kingdom warriors and kingdom workers, those who work in the vineyard. So, PACT stands for four different elements of youth ministry and what we are here to do. So, we're going to start with P, which is proximity, move on to A, which is attunement. C is conversation, and T is transformation. We're going to begin at the beginning and say that P, our first element, proximity. Proximity is very simply just a nearness in space or time or relationship. It's drawing near. You know, the Gospels tell us that if we will draw near to God, then He will draw near to us. And that is something that we hang on to as Christians. So we want to draw near our youth and our children. So, how does this work in the context of a meeting time? The issue of proximity is just asking us to stay nearby the kids. You want to be close enough to do a few things. You want to be able to respond to the young people. You want to be close enough, near enough that you can listen. You can be spoken to. You can speak. You want to be close enough to hear them, overhear their conversations. What are they talking about? This is one way to pick up some of the weird slang that young people use, but that's just another advantage. What you really want to do is hear their heart. What are they talking about? Are they concerned about things at school or at home, or what? Stay close enough to respond to their needs and to hear their heart. We also want to stay nearby, close enough to observe them. Look at body language. See which groups mesh with each other, which kids are developing friendships, which kids are um, left out, which kids are having a harder time making friends. Observe What's going on? What are the dynamics? And just know that. Take this in. For right now, proximity is really about just taking in all of these things. You want to stay close enough in proximity to understand how your young people tick. Get to know them by staying nearby and watching and listening. We also want to stay nearby, close enough that we are focusing our attention on the students. We are here in the meeting space, in the meeting time, for these students. We are to be being Christ for these students. So avoid gathering with your other adult friends and just sitting there and having a good little chit chat. That's not why you're there. Go to coffee afterwards or before and have a chit chat. It's important to maintain your adult friendships, but not during the youth meeting. Not while you've got kids in the room. The idea is to focus on them and not each other. The goal here is to affirm the students. Remember that young people always will spell love T-I-M-E. They want your attention. This is an affirming act. This is nonverbal affirmation when you're just standing nearby and watching. Just show that you're interested. Proximity during recreation time takes on the role of you being an interested observer. Now, I love to play kickball and volleyball and pickleball and whatever games we're playing. I get involved too. But if you have some time during your youth meeting where the kids are just given frisbees or balls or basketball or something like that, and there's a little bit of free play, that's when you lean in as an interested observer. Again, avoid the temptation of staying right with your adult friends. Watch the kids, ask questions. How did you learn to throw a frisbee that well? My goodness, what's your secret? Teach it to me. And be interested in what they're doing. Engage them on their level. And all of this works when we stay in proximity with our young people. Now, during a learning time or a gospel lesson time, um, if you're going to be supporting the leader, if you're not the teacher, you are a support person, that is a crucial role. Do not say, oh, well, I'm just going to walk away and do something else while the teacher is teaching. You sit with the teacher, with the students, and model for those students how to learn and how to participate. Be engaged in the lesson. You can set the example by asking questions that perhaps your students have but are too shy to ask the question. They're afraid of bringing attention to themselves, so they don't want to raise their hand and ask a question. You ask it for them. Be listening. Be a good listener. And remember that listening skills begin with your eyes. When you are listening to a speaker or a teacher, your eyes are on them, and you know that you're really listening to someone when your toes are facing them. You should be fully facing the teacher, the instructor. Model this listening skill for your young people. So if you are part of that support team, stay right with them, stay engaged, join the students in their learning time, and model what it is to be a good learner. Now, proximity is all about showing interest and showing up within a physical space. All right, you are in the church yard, you're in the gymnasium, you're in a fellowship hall, you're in a Sunday school classroom, wherever you are, be there with the kids. Don't walk in and out of the room, because that signals that you really have someplace else you'd rather be, or something more important that you need to do. Stay in the room, stay in proximity. This is a vital piece of affirmation. You are showing your young people that they matter to you, and through that, you're making sure that they know that they matter to God. Of course, they do. So we're going to move on to A. We've uh, talked about the P, which is proximity. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But the A is for attunement. Now, attunement is the reactiveness that we have towards other people. So if you are attuned to your students, you're going to see the world through their eyes. You're going to allow yourself to truly connect and build relationships with your students. You're not going to be aloof from them. You're not going to be another. You are a guide. You're their village elder. You are the one, the adult, who's going to shine a light. You've got the flashlight for their path into adult relationships with Jesus Christ. You've got the flashlight. Stay near them. Stay tuned into them. Where are they putting their feet? Shine the light on that spot. So engage. One of the things that many teachers forget, and it's easy to forget, I've done it, we've all done it. We forget what it was to be young and vulnerable, at the mercy of adult decisions that very often are made without thought to the consequences that the children will have to pay. Children are live at the risk of their adults upending their entire world. That has happened to many children. And it's important to be um, just in sympathy with young people. You know, if you look back on your teenage years as a happy-go-lucky, free-spirited time of no worries and no responsibilities, then I'd like to know where you grew up. And I know that perhaps there are many people who have a magical upbringing like that, but if you are one of those that experience that, please consider yourself very blessed and thank the Lord for that. Most children are not having that experience. I did not have that experience as a young person. And for that reason, I have spent my adult life leaning into young people and giving them the affirmation and the care and tuning into their needs. This is the basis of attunement. It's leaning in and remembering. So when we are attuned to our students, we're listening to them. And we're not listening to respond. We're not listening to argue. We're not listening so that we can laugh at their immaturity or correct them. We are listening to understand. Listen to what they're saying and understand what they're saying. Listen to the spoken and the unspoken words. Pay attention to what they don't say. Pay attention to the questions that they ask. Now, if you are dealing with children who are so wounded that they are negative in their tone of voice and in their presentation of themselves, if they're angry or frustrated and that is given away through their tone of voice or their choice of words, ignore that negative part. Pretend that that child has just spoken to you and given you a statement or a question Just pretend, even if it wasn't positively presented, answer as though it was positively presented. This is another part of attunement. It's also part of steering the conversation. You, as the adult, can adjust the atmosphere. You do have the power to shift, turn the negative into some positive. This is an important part of attunement. Um, Attunement is also about affirming the kids when they get something right. You know, we often just ignore them. They get something right and they do something well, or they um, behave with generosity, or they do exactly the Christ like thing in the moment without being reminded. Affirm that. Say, you were Jesus to this individual. I am very proud of the man or woman that you are becoming. I see you. I see you growing and I see you learning. And that is a beautiful thing to watch. Say it. Another form of attunement is asking open ended questions. Did you have a good day at school today? Yeah. Well, that's it. Try to readjust the question so that it opens up the conversation. An open ended question is one that invites more discussion. So ask, instead of, did you have a good day at school today? What was the best thing that happened at school today? Or who did something that made you laugh at school today? What happened today in school that made you smile? Ask open ended questions. What did you think when this happened? What are you concerned about in terms of this event or this uh, conversation that we're having? And then when you are asked questions, answer them thoughtfully. Try not to just flip something out of your mouth. Let's be mindful that our words carry a lot of weight with our students. It's very easy to say, oh, they're not paying any attention to me. Yes, they are. They absolutely are. Answer questions thoughtfully and well. Choose all your words wisely and well. Now, attunement also is about watching, and it's again, this is paired with proximity. You don't do proximity or attunement, you are attuned while in proximity. So, notice the relationships between the students. Who needs help making friends? Who in the group really wants to be a wallflower? Who would rather just have the earth swallow them whole so they wouldn't be there? Who's uncomfortable in the group? Notice these things, lean into those. The child that wants to play on their little game console and lean against the wall, go and stand next to that child and speak to that child. Lean into that one. Find them, but this takes attunement. Attunement is also being aware of the dynamics of your group. I know that there's lots of kids who are really into sports and they're very competitive and they're great basketball players and they are full body basketball players or volleyball players. But there's a lot of children in the world who do not like that, will not engage in it. And if that is the bulk of the games you play in your youth ministry, they will not come back. So make sure you are introducing non-competitive icebreaker type games so that everyone can play. The non-athlete, the kid who's in the band, the drama student, the kids who are not necessarily athletic. Make sure you include a lot of games that involve everybody, and that if the only way to win is for the whole team to win for the whole group. Whole group games, and there's dozens of them. More than that, there's hundreds of dozens on them, and all you have to do is Google, go to YouTube, and all the social medias have got just gazillion games that you can do with a group that's your size. If you have 3 students, or if you have 30 students, or whatever you have, games can be adapted, and there are some games that work better. But try to include, no, don't try to include, and make sure you include non-competitive type uh, games that allow people to build relationships with one another. Now, withdrawn students are very um, frightened of being asked a question that they can't answer. So make sure that you're asking questions of the withdrawn students that they can answer, and then applaud and encourage when they have responded, and strongly encourage full participation. 100% of the students participating 100% of the time. I just was never one who would allow the one student to walk away and sit on a rock beside the softball field while everybody else played softball, wiffle ball, whatever we were playing. I never allowed that. I made sure that I partnered with that one so that they could then engage with the full group. It's a learning curve. You do it gently. This is not forceful, but it is a great social healing moment for young people. Notice and monitor the students who like to disappear, walk away, wander down the hall, explore other areas of the church. Those need to be kept within the group, and that's part of attunement. You're tuning in to the ones that are, yeah, peace out, and they walk down the hall. That's not safe. It does not comply with any of the safety standards to which we are all obligated to adhere. So monitor those. Now, have clear expectations. Some kids just, they don't know that you expect them. I mean, for many, many young people, church is considered an optional add-on. They show up when they feel like it. This is not being taught in our culture and in many families as a place where expectations are real. So have some clear expectations for the group. Uh, Verbalize to parents and the students that we stay together as a group. Youth group is about building relationships, and so we expect us to stay together. Another form of attunement is to encourage platonic relationships. Um, to the extent that you can, make sure that you're not oohing and eyeing over and giving special attention to boyfriends and girlfriends. Give that as little airtime as you possibly can. Encourage friendships that are strictly platonic, but this isn't the homecoming dance. We are not looking for relationships that will lead to broken hearts or whatever. Encourage platonic relationships and ignore the romances. That's just, food for thought. Let's move on now to the C of our pact. And that C stands for conversation. And conversation is considered to be an informal exchange of ideas and thoughts between two or more people. It's a very basic definition. So, as you are planning on how your group is going to interact during their times together, plan for informality. All right. Adults want to serve as moderators rather than instructors very often, which means that as the instructor, you're going to listen more than you speak. Introduce uh, the topic, the scripture, and the point, the goal of your lesson for that day, and also for your recreation time. You'll want to encourage conversations, but you'll want to encourage the young people to talk. This may take practice. If your group is new and they don't know one another well, you may just have to keep the conversation rolling. Don't be afraid of silence. Let them think about what they want to say before they say it. So plan for there to be plenty of time for the students to have conversations amongst themselves regarding your topic. And again, encourage full participation. If you notice that you haven't heard from one or more student, I would say, goodness, I would love to know what Peter thinks about this. You know, Peter, Melanie just said whatever. Peter, what are your thoughts on that? Encourage full participation by being a moderator. All right. So more about conversation is to have a topic. You need to maintain control, lose control. All right, lose control. Have a topic and try to stick with that topic. If bunny trails are relevant, then by all means, but make sure that you are reeling it back in. Circle back to the point that you wanted to make. And again, let me reemphasize, do not be afraid of silence. Young people need time to process. Um, Private conversations between uh, students, between adults and students. They absolutely are a necessity in building these kind of relationships that we're building for youth discipleship. But private conversations must meet safety requirements. Keep a door open and stay where you can be seen. Um, One of my favorite places for private conversations with students is the kitchen. The door hangs open, the serving window is wide open, and yet we're apart. And a kitchen has noises, exhaust fans, and other noises that can cover up really what is being said, but make sure you're keeping a physical distance between you and your student. But um, be seen. Make sure everybody, excuse me, can see you. The next and most important thing, in honor of trustworthiness, is to keep your students' confidences unless your silence is going to cause harm. Obviously, if your child is talking about self harm of some kind, if they come to you with allegations of abuse, particularly if you can see signs of it, they want to tell you, that is not the time to keep confidence. You must report allegations of abuse and fears of self harm right away. Right away. Do not let 24 hours go by. Immediately contact the appropriate authorities with these things. But with other things, the fears and the anxieties that surround all the angst of childhood and adolescence, keep those confidences and build the trust. So we're wrapping up now to the final letter in our pact, and that is transformation, which is the goal of embracing Jesus Christ. We are to be transformed. We are to take up our cross and follow Christ. And at the end of the day, this is what we are doing youth ministry to facilitate. We want our young people to have a transforming relationship with Jesus Christ. They do not know, as we know, the power of that in their lives. All we can do is to encourage it. We know that Romans 12:2 is so clear. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. This is a wonderful scripture for young people to memorize. They should all have every word of this verse just imprinted on their hearts. Transformation. We are, as youth and children ministry facilitators, we're in the transformation business. And actually, Jesus Christ is in the transformation business. We're in the business of pointing our young people to the source of transformation. So let's read more about that. We're going to design on purpose our youth and children's ministries in such a way that personal and spiritual growth is at the top of our priority list. We don't have youth groups so we can get discounts on ski trips. We don't do youth groups so that we can pretend we're an arcade. Youth group isn't Disney World. Youth group is about spiritual and personal growth in young people. It's about moving on towards perfection, as John Wesley so famously encouraged. Move towards perfection. We are called to be perfected in Jesus Christ. And this is how we design our youth group, with these goals in mind. Youth and children's ministry groups are also about establishing relationships and becoming a community of faith. The young people are learning how to be in relationship with one another and with Jesus Christ. This is the goal. If you are focusing on how we can have fun, and which Christian concert can we go to, and what camp are we going to, and where are we going, then that's only a part of this. In fact, it's a very small part. We are to be pointing our children to a transformational relationship with Jesus Christ. And so, just as I said, Youth and Children's Ministries is not Disney World. It's not an arcade. We are not a travel agency designed to set up all the trips we want to take. The vast majority of your ministry activities need to take place on your campus, with you, with a consistent group of adults who are practicing proximity, attunement, conversation in order to reach transformation. This is what the goal is. We've really, since the 80s particularly, we have become agencies of recreation in a safe place. Having fun is great, but let's not take our eye off the real goal. Children's and youth ministries is Christ-centered. It is fun. It is friendly. It's inclusive. It's intentional. All are welcome, and we do this on purpose. Make sure that you have a plan and a goal for every time you're meeting together. Christ-centered transformation is what we are about. We are Christ-centered in that we respect and we learn about other faith systems, but we revere and we practice Christianity during our youth and children's ministries. Make no mistake, Christian youth and children's ministries is about Christ, taking Christ at his word, believing Christ is who he says he is, and that we as believers are to respond to Christ as a Savior, as God incarnate, and as God with us. Now, another part of transformation in youth and children's ministries is to have fun. Good grief. Maintain a cheerful countenance along with your reverence. Reverence is vital. We approach the throne of God with fear and trembling, but we also approach God and approach one another with a cheerful countenance. The gospel is good news. That is what the word gospel means: good story, good telling. It's good news. Be happy when you're around the children, even if you have to fake it. Be cheerful. Bring the fun. When we're friendly, we are offering and we expect kindness in return. We are offering hospitality. We never send our children away without feeding them. Relationships are built around a table. We firmly believe in that Acts model of building relationship, that it is birthed, the church was birthed around the table, and it continues around the table. When we are inclusive, we are embracing creative kids, athletic kids, the scholars, the nerds, the misfits, the ones who are culturally attractive, the beautiful children, the ones who are not culturally attractive, the ones who are in that awkward adolescent stage um, of trying to figure out how to be comfortable in their own skin. And also kids who are not typically included at school or in other settings. They're included when they're with you. This is what inclusivity really means. It means that we are making sure that everyone feels welcome, whatever gift they bring or don't bring. So we also, in the transformation phase of this, we remember that we are to be intentional. Youth and children's ministries, when they are high quality, it has not happened by accident. Somebody has put some planning, some thought, some time, and preparation into creating this intentional atmosphere. Adults who care for young people care enough to think, to dream, to plan for an energetic community of faith for young people. Spend time on this. A low to no prep youth group curriculum probably isn't going to be worth the paper it's written on. Please pour some time into it. It is worth it. So we're going to wrap up this thinking about PACT. The PACT principles bear in mind that they remain in place no matter how many participants you are. 3 students are as important as 30. 1 student is as important as 10. Prepare a lesson even if you show up and the kids don't. If there is a young person in the room, they still get the best experience that you can offer, the fully formed youth experience. Now, bear in mind that the PACT principles, um, proximity, attunement, conversation, and transformation, these principles get easier with time, and the students do respond to these. So practice these faithfully, practice them then, consistently, and you'll get better at them. And they won't be so awkward. And PACT principles require adults, please hear me on this one, to be authoritative leaders instead of friends. You can be friendly without being in a peer-to-peer relationship with your students. And remember that I'm saying authoritative, not authoritarian. Authoritative is not a my way or the highway because I'm the grown up. Authoritative means you are leading the way, you are showing the way, and you are demonstrating the way, you are setting the example, and you are expecting through your countenance and your words, you are expecting your young people to fall into that authoritative umbrella. So, adults, if you're tempted to be buddy buddies and share bathroom humor, or um, just in some way lower yourself to the mental and emotional age of an adolescent again, just they don't want that. They want an adult in the room. They need an adult in the room. Youth and children's ministry leadership. If you are volunteer or staff, you are a mandated reporter of any suspicious child abuse or neglect. Do not hesitate to call the Department of Social Services, notify your pastor and other authority figures around you if you see evidence of child abuse. You are a mandated reporter. So, PACT and parents. Parents are an integral part of your ministry. So, the 5 rules of dealing with parents in youth ministry are these: communicate, 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 communicate. Pick a pick at least 5 ways um, to communicate whatever is going on in youth group. Give it lots of lead in time. If you're going to go to camp for 4 days to do mission work, the parents need to be planning that 6 months in advance. You need to be telling parents in January about the trip you've got planned in June, and then continue to keep that communication up. At least 5 ways, and tell your parents what they are. I always tell parents, I'm going to communicate everything you need to know through an email group, through a text group, on social media. I'm going to put a piece of paper in the parents' hands. I don't give it to the child. I walk out to the car and put it in the parents' hands at the end of any youth meeting. Bulletins or newsletters, if you still do that at your church. And I make an announcement about these things. And I tell parents, this is how I'm going to communicate with you. And that really reminds them to be listening and looking. Just tell them how you're going to communicate with them, and then do that. Pretty straightforward. Parents are absolutely integral. So you communicate, communicate, communicate. And one of the most important ways and most effective ways is to be available and visible before and after worship, before and after youth meetings, at every event. Be approachable, be open, talk to the parents. When a parent is asking questions, focus on the question, listen and respond openly. If you feel like you want to be defensive, swallow that back. If the parent is coming towards you in an accusatory way, respond openly and with warmth, and mirror their concern. All right. Tell them what's going on at youth meetings. Well, you are, as youth and children's ministries facilitators, you're the lifeblood of the church. Without adults who are willing to come alongside young people, the church can only live as long as we do. So when we're called to serve our children, our young people, with our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness, and for those that are doing this, and for those that have listened to this entire presentation, thank you. I thank you for your children. I thank you for your children's parents. Your pastor thanks you, and Jesus is smiling at you right now. Thanks for doing what you do, and thanks for spending this time with me. Children's Ministries, I don't think there's anything more important. So I just ask now that you go with God and be filled with the love and the joy of Jesus Christ as you share with children. Bye bye.